Maynard Ferguson was a Canadian jazz trumpeter and bandleader in the 20th and early 21st century. He was born on May 4, 1928 in Verdun, Quebec, Canada. During his career, he played jazz, jazz rock, and big band genre pieces. He also played the flugelhorn, firebird, trombone, valve trombone, superbone, baritone horn, French horn, and even soprano saxophone. Maynard Ferguson is one of the most well-known brass musicians in the 20th century. When he was only 4 years old, his parents encouraged him to play piano and violin. When he was 9 years old, he heard a cornet for the first time in his local church and asked his parents to purchase one for him. He became so involved with music that he dropped out of high school of Montreal at age of 15 in order to actively pursue a music career. As he became a stronger trumpeter, he came to the attention of numerous American band leaders and began receiving offers to come to the United States. In 1948, Ferguson finally moved to the United States. He first started playing with bands of Boyd Rayburn, Jimmy Dorsey, and Charlie Barnett. When the Barnett Band temporarily retired in 1949, Ferguson accepted an offer to join Stan Kenton's newly formed Innovations Orchestra. They started rehearsing together in January of 1950. Although they weren't that successful, they made a number of remarkable recordings, including Maynard Ferguson, one of the series of pieces named after featured soloists. Ferguson was so popular with Kenton's band that for 3 straight years, from 1950 to 1952, he won the Downbeat Readers' Poll as Best Trumpeter. In 1953, Ferguson left Kenton to become a session player for Paramount Pictures. Over his career at Paramount, he performed in 46 soundtracks. He still recorded jazz during this period, but his contract prevented him from playing at jazz clubs. In 1956, Ferguson left Paramount because he was very unhappy with the lack of live performance opportunities he had. In the same year, Ferguson became the leader of the Birdland Dream Band in New York City. Although they only produced 2 albums over the course of a year, the band became the core of Ferguson's performing band for the next 9 years. In 1959, Ferguson guested with the New York Philharmonic Orchestra under the direction of Leonard Bernstein, performing Symphony No. 2 in C, Titans by William Rousseau, which demanded a trumpeter who was talented with extreme high registers of the trumpet, which Ferguson had no problems with. As big bands started to become unpopular in the 1960s, Ferguson officially disbanded his big band in 1966. After leaving his long-time recording contract, Ferguson and his family moved to Hitchcock Estate in Millbrook, New York in November of 1963. In the duration of the 3 years they lived there, he played in multiple clubs and recorded several albums. In 1967, Ferguson moved his family to India and taught at a school near Madras. There he led a boys' brass band, which he founded and helped teach at for several years. While he was in India, Ferguson was influenced by Sathya Sai Baba, who he considers as his spiritual guru. In 1969, Ferguson moved to the outskirts of Windsor, near London. That same year, he signed a contract with CBS Records in England and formed a big band with British musicians that performed in the newly popular jazz/rock fusion style. Not only would they perform new compositions, but they would also perform arrangements of popular songs at the time like MacArthur Park and Hey Jude. He brought his ensemble back to North America in 1971. A few years later, he started working with producer Bob James on a series of commercially successful albums, including Primal Scream and Conquistador. He also performed a solo trumpet piece for the closing ceremonies for the Summer Olympics in Montreal in the summer of 1976. For his 60th birthday in 1988, Ferguson returned to a large band format and to more mainstream jazz. This idea led to the creation of Big Bop Nouveau, a 9-piece band featuring 2 trumpets, 1 trombone, 3 reeds, and a 3-piece rhythm section, which became his standard touring group for the remainder of his career. Although Ferguson's playing abilities got weaker as he got older, he always remained an exciting performer, touring an average of 9 months a year with the Big Bop Nouveau for the remainder of his life. In 1973, Ferguson settled in Ojai, California, where he lived to the end of his life. He died on August 23, 2006, due to kidney and liver failure brought on by an abdominal infection. The same year before he passed away, he was presented Phi Mu Alpha Symphonia Music Fraternity's Charles E. Lutton Man of Music Award at its national convention in Cleveland, Ohio. He had been initiated as an honorary member of the fraternity's Xi Chi chapter at Tennessee Tech University in 1976. Ferguson will always be remembered as an incredible musician who completely revolutionized the music industry in the late 20th, early 21st century.